Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, you gotta take a seat. Sorry. Please find a seat. We do have them. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Megan Hoyer. I'm the Director of Public Programs here at the Whitney Museum. And it's my pleasure and my honor to introduce today's program, Gordon Matta Clark and New York City Graffiti Culture, 1972 to 73. Today's program, yes. Today's program celebrates the incredible exhibition, Gordon Matta Clark, NYC Graffiti Archive, 1972 to 73, that's currently on view at White Columns, just around the corner. White Columns is one of the longest-running alternative art spaces in New York City, and for the last 25 years, a fixture in the West Village. So the Whitney is really the new kid on the block, and we're grateful for the warm welcome we got 10 years ago when we first moved to the neighborhood. Thank you to everyone at White Columns, especially Matthew Higgs, Erin Somerville, and Violet Saxon. We're going to say this again, but I'm going to start telling you now that today is the last day of this exhibition. I get the sense many of you have seen it, but following the program, everyone is invited to go over there, and all the speakers will be heading over there. So signing and hanging out can happen. And now it's sunny out. Hopefully it stays that way. So that's where we're going after we do the talking. The Whitney also has a long-standing commitment to the work of Gordon Matta Clark. The museum first acquired Matta Clark's work in 1992, and we have significant holdings across media, including a wonderful film, Tree Dance, that's currently on view on the 6th floor in the exhibition Shifting Landscapes. That show also, by the way, includes Basquiat, Keith Haring. Okay, maybe I shouldn't mention that. But we have work to do in this area. In 2007, when we were still uptown, the Whitney presented a retrospective, Gordon Matta Clark, You Are the Measure, which featured all aspects of Matta Clark's work, including photographs, drawings, films, notebooks, and sculptural pieces. Most recently, the Whitney worked with David Hammonds to realize the public sculpture Days End, just across the street in Hudson River Park. That piece was inspired by a building cut that Matta Clark did in 1975 at Pier 52, that once sat in the same site. And you'll hear more about all of this from our first speaker today, Jessamine Fiore, co-director of the estate of Gordon Matta Clark and co-curator of the exhibition at White Columns. Before I turn it over to Jessamine, I want to take a moment to both introduce and thank Roger Gassman. Co-curator of Gordon Matta Clark in New York City Graffiti Archive at White Columns. Roger is a writer, archivist, and collector whose work is focused on elevating and historicizing the ongoing graffiti art movement. He's the founder of Beyond the Streets, an organization that presents large-scale exhibitions and educational programs on graffiti and street art. And we're deeply grateful to Roger and Beyond the Streets for their work and their collaboration on this program. So thank you all for being here, and please join me in welcoming Jessamine Fiore.
Hello. Oh, thank you all so much for coming out. This is such a pleasure to be here at the Whitney to celebrate this great exhibition. Thank you so much, Megan, for helping to put all of this together. We really appreciate it. I'm just going to do a very quick few words about Gordon Matta Clark. And if you have any more questions, you can find me after the talk. Okay, so Gordon Matta Clark, born here in New York City, 1943, city kid, and you might know him best from his large-scale architectural interventions, such as Splitting, where he cut a house in half in Englewood, New Jersey, Bingo, which was upstate by Niagara, and 3 pieces of that are in MoMA right now, the introduction to their contemporary art collection. Of course, Conical Intersect, 1975, a massive cut he did while the Centre Pompidou was going up in Paris. And there's some interior shots of that. And then, of course, Days End. And I'm just going to spend a few seconds on this piece because, yes, that is right outside. He cut this beautiful, almost half-moon shape at the end of the pier as well as bisected the pier and did some side cuts. If you can imagine, right behind those smokestacks, that's where the Whitney Museum is today. That's sort of where the park is. So he worked doing these monumental cuts. It was just him and a few assistants doing these he had no permission to do this cut, by the way. He just found this pier. He wanted to transform one of the derelict piers into a light and water temple. It's a fascinating project. There's a lot more info I could give about it. But of course, what's important just in terms of honoring us being here at the Whitney today is that when this museum was being built, this current iteration, David Hammonds sort of learned the history, saw the site, and he made this proposal to Adam Weinberg, just sent this drawing. This turned into this incredible public art project. This is public art. This belongs to the people of New York City, but it was the Whitney Museum and particularly Adam Weinberg who was the driving force to raise the funds to have this built. This incredible sculpture, this tribute from David Hammonds to Gordon Matta Clark, that is outside today. So also afterwards, go check it out. There's the beach right there now, and it's wonderful. But for all of these monumental architectural cuttings, where did Gordon Matta Clark begin? He began in downtown New York City in Soho. And I like to look at these early years of his career as some of the most important, experimental. He was trying lots of stuff. He was exploring the city. These are the 112 Green Street years. 112 Green Street was an artist-run space, alternative art space that was founded by Gordon and Jeffrey Liu and Alan Surratt. The reason I'm emphasizing it, you can notice this is a very raw space with all these artists sort of working together, very anarchic. You can see that line of white columns down the middle. When this space eventually had to leave 112 Green Street in 1978, it changed its name to White Columns, and that is the White Columns we know that exist today. So this exhibition is also a homecoming for Gordon Matta Clark. Now, at the same time, he opened Food Restaurant, which was an artist-run cooperative restaurant in Soho, and he was very much in the center of the downtown art scene. What I want to focus on just in the context of this work is his very first solo exhibition in New York City, which took place in fall of 1972 at 112 Green Street. In this exhibition, he presented his very first architectural cuts, one from Food Restaurant, which you can see in the foreground there, and the rest were from these explorations he was doing at the time of the South Bronx. We call these the Bronx floors. He was going up and he was looking at the abandoned architecture, the obsolete architecture that was no longer serving the needs of that community. It was a community in crisis. The city was failing the community, and he started cutting out sections of those structures to almost emphasize even further the failure of this architecture for the people. And so then he would take photographs of the holes from where he took these sections, and he brought them to 112 Green Street, and he would exhibit the section next to the photographs of where those pieces came from. At the same time, the other major work in this exhibition was a piece called Walls Paper, and for this, he was taking photographs of the walls of buildings that had been demolished, and you sort of see the after effect of the buildings, right? So imagine this whole body of work. He's going up to the South Bronx. He's wandering around. He starts taking pictures. What catches his eye? That's Walls Paper, graffiti. This is right at the beginning of this incredible moment, which you're going to hear all about, of New York City graffiti. But he started seeing these signatures. He started seeing this writing. He started recognizing the names, and he started taking photographs. In fact, he took thousands of photographs, over 2,500 photographs. Now, what did he do with those images? He printed them in black and white, and then he hand-painted in the color for his own artwork. So all the color you see there, that's actually airbrush. And he would also, and this is from the White Columns exhibition, he would, that long subway there, that's one sheet of photo paper where he would put the subway cars, expose them, do the hand painting, and we call those the graffiti photoglyphs. So these were the only works that he was sort of making from all these thousands of photographs. This is what he was developing and showing. He didn't have anywhere to show them, and he submitted them to this Washington Square art show that was sort of for Sunday painters, etc., and they were rejected because, of course, it's graffiti, it's vandalism. Who wants to look at this? So he set up his own protest street art fair called the Alternatives to the Washington Square Art Fair. It was in the same weekends that the art fair was going on, and he set up his photoglyphs and was trying to engage people. At the same time, he brought up his truck to 110th Street and got a whole bunch of the community there, kids, you can see adults, spray painted, covered the truck in graffiti. And then he parked his truck next to his street art fair. And in order to help engage people, he had a blowtorch and he would cut out sections of the truck as sculptures. Again, to sort of show the possibilities of creating art from the truck architecture, using graffiti and art, and just trying to draw attention to the idea that this is, as he saw it, a new art movement, the people's art movement, a revolution. So basically the only other time he showed this work in a gallery was in 112 Green Street as part of a group show out the back windows. But beyond that, it never found an audience in his lifetime, and he just held on to it. And in fact, even in subsequent retrospectives, it was never highlighted until the exhibition I co-curated with Sergio Bessa at the Bronx Museum. And when Roger came along with Beyond the Streets and realized what a treasure trove these images were. So I'm going to leave it there and invite Roger up to give us his pleasing brochure. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Roger Gassman. I am a graffiti historian, curator, collector, gallerist, author, all kinds of crap. But the main thing to know about me is that graffiti has defined my life, how I've explored, how I found out about things, a lot of friendships I've made, enemies I've made, everything else has all come through graffiti. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and how we got here, and then I'm going to talk about, of course, Gordon Matta Clark, graffiti, the show, and all of those things. Since 1992, I've been pretty obsessed with graffiti. I was fascinated as a kid growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, and I started doing it myself when I was about 13 with a lot of my friends. My other main interest at the time was punk rock, particularly hardcore music. Through that scene, I met a lot of other kids that were interested in graffiti, and going out to paint was just an extension sometimes of going to a show, meeting people, seeing a band, and hanging out. The only other thing that went along with this, it was a lot of illegal activity, and that involved stealing supplies, a lot of sneaking around, lying to our parents, and roaming the city at night, things that haven't changed in the 50-plus years of this history. By the time we could drive, I was traveling to other cities to see bands, do graffiti, and learn the history of the city I was in. I found out everything I could about graffiti, whether it was getting magazine at Tower Records, negatives friends had that I could make copies of, a book, anything. I was hungry and I was looking. I traded photos with people. Does everyone remember actually getting a real photo printed and a stamp in the post office? Well, we'd go to the post office and we'd send a friend in California, New Jersey, wherever it was, a lot of photos of what was going on in our town, and they'd send some photos back. That also helped me build a great network of friends throughout the U.S. and then globally. And we did all of this, of course, before the internet was awesome and horrible at the same time. We were doing a lot. By the time I graduated high school in 1996, I'd built that global network and I'd become more and more interested in the history of graffiti. At that time, though, a lot of this history is only 20, 25 years old, and a lot of people are not as interested in telling the history of it yet because it's still kind of a new thing. You know, going back to the 70s and the early 90s wasn't as long ago. If you think about it, 1990 is, 30 plus years ago now. So in the early 90s, people weren't thinking about the early 70s and the graffiti history as much. But I wanted to preserve it, I wanted to document, and I wanted to talk about it. Fast forward several years. I'm out of high school, and I started a magazine. I published a graffiti-themed magazine, and then very quickly I started another magazine called Swindle, which was a little bit more upscale than the first one. Worked with a lot of large artists in that, probably some that are in this room. I was putting out books. I was helping friends with art shows. I was doing curation. I was doing management. By this time, I ended up in Los Angeles around 2004. I co-curated Art in the Streets at MoCA with Jeffrey Deitch and Aaron Rose. Again, a lot of you that are in this room were in this room or influential in the reason that show even happened. Together, we all made the craziest museum show that MoCA had ever had. It's still the highest attended show they've ever had. And somebody else should probably do it at some point. Then I started making more books. I started making more films. I made the History of American Graffiti book, which unintentionally made me even more of an expert in the field in cities from Houston, etc., all over the place. I worked on Banksy's Exit Through the Gift Shop as a producer. We just kept making things and doing things, and it was great and fun. At the same time, I was working on a documentary called Wall Riders. And that led me to one question: who was doing a lot of these things first in the U.S.? And trying to find out who was first, I figured out a lot of the truth that there wasn't necessarily first. There were many, many firsts. Who painted the first 3D? Who tagged the trains first? Who added the crowns? It's hard to pinpoint, especially when it's all done by teenagers that very little were documenting it and across town from each other, weren't calling each other. And all could have happened within a few weeks of each other. Different people did a lot of the firsts. A lot of it's done, again, by teenagers, 14, 15, 16 years old. And when you're asking them to remember things they did that might seem almost irrelevant to them at the time, of a crown or this or that, they start to realize over time how important that was. But again, dates, eras, it all blends together. But we know we're here to celebrate the originators and the beginning. There's so many firsts. And it really just, again, depends on what you saw in your neighborhood. It's really important to figure out and give people credit. And through this research, through the Wall Riders film we made, we gave a lot of people important credit. Of course, we found out there's a lot more out there than we covered, and there's still more to do. You know, those simple signatures evolve over time, and they define things. They shape the culture. Each person adds something new to the next generation. It's important to understand that adding the crown, adding a halo, what it does, what it means. In the end, it's just a bunch of teenagers out having fun. Most of them stop by the time they graduate high school. Most of them actually don't even aspire to be artists. They're just having fun doing what they're doing, not thinking about the importance of what they've been doing. Examples of some of what I've been talking about. So by the summer of 1972, Gordon Matta Clark, as you heard from Jessamine, was shooting a lot of photographs of graffiti and capturing the early style that had started to develop. Gordon Matta Clark was interested in this form from an artist's perspective. He didn't know these kids. These kids didn't know him. He was going up to the Bronx to do these cuttings, again, which were mostly all illegal. And he saw more and more graffiti, and he thought it was just this incredible youth culture, and he wanted to document it, and he had a camera, so he started taking pictures. Enter me in 2010, give or take. I'm working on this film, and I'm aware that Gordon had printed and hand-colored so many of these photos. So I contacted Jane, his widow, and I said, we're working on this book. Could you tell me more about the stuff? She said, great. We did an interview, put it in the book. A few years later, it clicked in my head. There's no way he only shot this amount of photos. There has to be more. Where is it? He was an obsessive artist. What else does he have? So I contacted Jane again. And she said, no one's ever asked to see these negatives. They're here. Come get them. They're in the archive in Connecticut. There were over 2,500 negatives by the time all was said and done. Because he shot just so openly, he captured such a wild amount of work that unless you lived it, you never would have seen it. All of this was sitting there for 50 plus years. His entire estate graciously let us scan them. And we showed the first few of them at some of our Beyond the Streets exhibitions. People really enjoyed them, whether they were enjoying them for the fact they were Gordon's photos, the graffiti that was in them, or all of the above. I think it was all of the above. And we always wanted to make a bigger project. We just didn't know exactly what to do yet. We kept showing the photos, and people kept enjoying them. So we kept showing them. So cut to my decades of digging and collecting, finding stuff in basements, filing cabinets online all over the place. Ephemera, art, people don't think they have it anymore. Thankfully, I found a lot of it, and thankfully, a lot of people have let us share it with them. I studied Gordon's photos, and the more and more connections I made, I could see that a lot of the photos, the artists in them were represented in the works I was collecting and that I saw. There's a Lazar tag on a train. I have a Lazar jacket. There's a Snake tag. I have a Snake painting, or I've been able to borrow one from Snake. It all came together and emerged right before my eyes as pieces that belong together in a show. We launched the first show at the gallery in Los Angeles last February. Matthew Higgs, who's been at White Columns for 20 plus years, came to see the show twice. Thankfully understood its importance and wanted to launch it in New York. And that's how we ended up here. I'm grateful to him for the thought, the discovery, and bringing the show to New York and everyone's support that helped with it. Showing the Gordon Amato Clark work alongside the pioneers he captured is giving a new look at the legacy and the art the kids made. It invites a whole new audience. There's no reason that we'd be having this talk at the Whitney right now if it hadn't been for the unearthing this graffiti work of his. Thanks, Jane, for saving the photos for all these years. There's no reason for any of this if it weren't for the act of the kids themselves doing it. So thank you to the vandals and the kids that were out there doing it. You helped shape what has become the largest global art movement. To me, this is Gordon's greatest accomplishment, capturing some of the earliest images of this movement. There's a synergy. They contextualize one another. That's the point of the show. From beyond the world, from beyond this world, Gordon is now allowing us to celebrate it. Now we're going to see a short film by Michael Lawrence and then bring him up to talk with a few other people. So enjoy it, and we'll see you in a minute.
Go. Since you're using your fat tip tonight, man. Go. Hi. Nah, man, you know. Hey, boy. You know that. You know how I talk, I need a fat.
You can't hardly do nothing with white paint.
Oh, what did he say?
Do Jay. Can just spray right there. Can just spray. Raise your good old black. You see, black, you know, good old black. Good old black with brown. Channel 48, huh?
I think I'm gonna have to.
Hey. Hey, man, I don't
I was only 4. I got you. I don't know that. That's on his coat.
You told me I'm good. See, look. Check it out. I was about to 12 right there. My 12. You got that spray. 2, and I got my 12 on the shit.
Oh, what is that?
I ain't gonna see this. I ain't do it like this. Shoot. Big dusty. Give me that dollar from me.
Coco, you want it?
Clear.
Let me get that.
Smile.
Tony.
Come on.
Who's 3 of these? I'll take 3 of these. Oh, shit. Top to bottom. You do it like that? No, that's okay. Put up
Ask for a ticket. You go my thing. No, you don't. Go up to the front. That's good.
Come on.
You didn't tell me?
You
Go without paint, right?
You go without paint? That paint's so good.
How about the feet?
Leave the rest of the tickets there. Not to give them to you.
13 and a half.
Yeah.
Who's all this shit? Mine. Shit. He's on the high end, so he's get out of
They came out today, he told me no.
How long is it?
So 50 feet?
About, no, 40. Like, is it twice as big as this?
Yeah, 3 times.
About 3 times as big.
Who knocked it down?
It just fell out by itself because the strong wind came from behind it.
Told me somebody knocked it down.
Joffrey?
Mikey was session.
Where?
That was it.
I'm ready to go on.
Everybody's gonna pickpocket you out there. We'll see. They're gonna say, hey, that's real.
Michael, look at the indicator and see if it's about. No.
Here, what it was like at that historic moment. I want to bring Michael Lawrence onto the stage, and I want to bring on Mike 171 and SJK 171, who you see in the footage right there also, 2 lifelong friends and original wall writers and artists that painted live on stage on that historic day. So come on up and let's have a conversation. Steve, Michael Lawrence, and Mike 171, all in order. Michael Lawrence, let's start with you. How did this come about? You were there. You heard about it. Your mic should be on.
Hello.
Test.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be involved with it. I was just learning photography. I was learning video, and I got tossed into this mix. Okay, it was an amazing thing. It changed my life. I started out as a dance photographer, and when this happened, became a graffiti photographer. So it just, my life just took a different direction. And I was lucky enough to meet some of the most creative people in in the world, okay? They created a new art, and I just happened to be lucky enough to see the beginning of it and document it.
Steve and Mike, what were you told about this ballet? What was going to happen? Were you guys warned? How did you find out about it a week ahead of time, a day ahead of time?
We had a 2-week notice, and Hugo pick like a good group, top group to paint, and he knew I could handle it because I did a lot of painting on the subway cars. So he said, "You guys," he picked Mike, he picked a bunch of us, and we just went. That day we showed up. We were in the back room, like you could see the spray cans. We were looking at the colors, spraying and testing them out, and we were getting ready for the show.
What'd they tell you, Mike? How far in advance notice did you get? Were you ready? Were you practicing? What was what?
We met Hugo in October, November 72. So that was up at J. Hood Wright Park. We call it Jew Park, excuse me. But that's what it was by the George Washington Bridge. We're from 171st Street, a few blocks from my house. And, we took it from there to Hugo's house on 89th Street off of Riverside. And then we went up to City College, where that was the first time we all got together with Stitch, Snake, Cat, Webb, myself, Steve, Jack Star. And that was like a test run. Him being associate, one of the associate professors in those guys, and they were filming us. So, like Henry shared in your Wall Riders movie, we saw all that paint and markers and the paper up there. They said, "Oh, wow, this is all free. We don't have to go steal this." So that's what led up to where within October, November 72 to February, March of 73, we took it from the streets to being creative, manifesting, talking about it, and then we're on stage at the city center with 3,500 people standing there, And so, for us, this is like, the second or third show. We only did a few shows because I caused chaos there with some of the other people. And
only that, it traveled to Chicago.
No, but before that, I'm just saying, we're talking about...
We'll get to your chaos in a little bit.
I think there was 10 shows, all total. There were 6 of them. And it was just amazing. Every time it was so creative. Just being there, I got to see every show, so it was good.
Were you, Steve, what was it like? Were you nervous being on stage there?
I was nervous, but I felt like I was going into the yard to go paint. So I felt a little comfortable with that. Then I had all my compadres with us. We didn't have to go steal any paint because it was already there supplied for us. So once we came out on stage, we started doing our thing. We started spray painting on the backgrounds, and they were moving slowly. I never seen anything like that. It's, whoever the choreographer was, they put on a great entertainment, the way it was set up with the dancers and the artist painting. So as you can see, I'm painting right now. So we love to paint. You got to understand that. But we were kind of nervous, and it was exhilarating for us to be on stage in front of everybody like that. I was surprised to see everybody in gowns and tuxedos. It was like we were going to an opera or something.
Mike, were you nervous on stage?
It was healthy nervous because growing up in school, I went to Incarnation Catholic School and the day camp. So you had to do plays. So I did like Oliver and Mame and all that stuff. So, being there on stage with the lights and Mom and they just stay there, hello, Dolly. This is, I'm doing all that stuff. So I love that, the theatrical thing. And plus, my mom, she was a model. She had, for her legs and whatnot. And so, being involved with that. Steve's father being a photographer. So we're kind of used to being in the public eye. But this is a different level. This is high society. Again, I'm sorry I gave you a lengthy statement on the last one because I'm trying to give everyone a visual of how we started from that short time of October, November to March, on 4 or 5 months, Christmas, New Year's, and now on stage, at the City Center, where, Mike was able to capture this historic moment.
So you captured this moment. You weren't even supposed to be filming, were you? Mike.
Basically, I was supposed to just take stills. I did the publicity shots, okay? But we had an opportunity where Jack talked Sony into giving us a porta pack, okay? This was $2,000 worth of equipment. And he conned them out of it. I don't know how he did it. It was just, and pretty soon, I'm now doing the videotaping as well as taking stills. I'm all over the place at this point. So I was lucky, and just to be able to document it was great. And the Joffrey was always good to me. They let me in, and I was just a kid. I was I was the same age as these guys, and they let me come in, photograph. I was part of the team. I was part of the family, and it was an amazing thing. And learning, meeting Twyla, meeting all these dancers, it was an incredible experience. And then working with graffiti artists, I didn't know anything about it. I just got tossed into the mix, and I enjoyed it. It defined me after a while.
What did the ballerinas think?
They liked us because they did like us because they weren't that older. They were in the young, they're young. So they were looking and stuff and flirting. Yeah, so, we took that as, something that we liked. So we were enjoying the moment, as you can say, because that took us to other experiences as far as down the line. We had our first showcase at the Razor Gallery in 1973 in Soho. I used to wear a hat, like a different hat. You saw that over there. It was a great show because we got to sell all the paintings. There was a lot of collaborative paintings. And Andy Warhol came over there and said, "Wow, there's really great stuff here." So it was like a new thing in the art world where the graffiti was first time shown in the gallery.
And we got some of those paintings, including ones you made, a block away. Yeah. Tell me about the grand finale. Did you all come out and give a bow with the ballerinas?
They were a little dizzy from the spray paint. We're used to this shit. So they're high and like this. Real quick, Steve and I, where was it? Lincoln Center just had the Joffrey Ballet 70 years. So they had an exhibition there, and they had us 4 pieces with our faces, silhouettes up on the thing, and the people dancing. So they asked us to be guest speakers at a walking tour. And one of the ladies in the thing says, "I was there at the show. I watched you guys."
That's unbelievable.
And then with Henry's other book that came out by Stafford.
But tell me about.
I'm sorry, Roger.
What happened? You come out on stage. Tell me about the grand finale.
Yeah, so we went out there and taking bows, seeing everybody, people, Steve and Sharman. You guys, there's a shot that you guys took and you're spraying, and the blue paint is coming out.
Yeah, so let me interrupt there. So it's Michael and Migdal standing in front, and while they're telling us to bow in front of everybody, and the show's finale, we get up to the front. We're holding the spray cans. So this is what I'm trying to remember when I was speaking to you. I'm trying to figure if you guys said to spray into the audience, and which nobody else did except me. And I thought, because I'm so used to spraying, I love to spray. So I just sprayed. They caught that, and the spray's coming out with my face showing right out of the can. I'm the only one spraying in the audience, and I don't know what happened from there. Everybody was just clapping and laughing. They said, "Wow, this guy really sprayed into the audience." That's what I did. So
what sticks with you? What sticks with you, Michael? And starting with you in the middle. After 50 plus years, people are still coming to you for the photos, the video. It's being celebrated. What sticks with you about this?
It was just a lot of fun. It was, it wasn't like work. It was a pleasure to work with these guys. And I remember, the one thing I remember about the ballet was at the end of the ballet, there was this cloud.
Talking to the mic.
And it just was
Michael, talk to the mic.
And it was just all over. It was a really incredible thing to see all these clouds of paint, and the dancers didn't like it. Okay, it was hard for them, and eventually Twyla took the painting away, and it ruined the ballet. She just put a static background up, and it was never the same. This was unique. Okay, and to see the painting go, and I was very happy to be a part of it. It was a lot of fun.
Steve, what do you think? What's your takeaway here?
I don't remember that part because I just remember the positive part because we did that a few times. And then this actual backdrop ballet type of show was actually replicated twice or three times with the same type of artwork that we were doing. So how they did not like it is I don't understand that because they did replicate the show.
You were first.
Yeah, we were the first ones.
There you go. See? And Mike, what do you got in closing? You caused some mischief? You caused some mischief, you said? Well, you need the mic.
I'm having flashbacks, everybody. Watch it right here. So again, we're 15 years old, and I know Roger asked me a direct question how I feel before, but real quick, with the ballet, Henry's other book came out, and the ballet Rena was there, and I showed her the book. She said, "That's me in the middle." So I just met her a few months ago. She's still alive. You know what I mean? So it's amazing how everything comes in full swing. So what happened? I'm doing acid and everything. You know, if you see my writings, we made the New York magazine, so 8-page spread, and they put us up there. And if you see how my handwriting was, I was way off course. So, as I wait for all the guys calling, I'm just like freaking out on the thing. So afterwards, we went in the back, and Raby, 954, he's 14 years old, big afro, and Stitch, of course, and we go in the back, and they got the prop room. So there's a big sword, like 6 feet tall, from King Arthur's days. So they take it and put it down. Mike, come in. They put it down my pants, and they get Steve's jacket, because it's February watch, and puts it over me. He had the brown one with the fur and the big question mark on it. And we go out to take a group shot. So everyone gets on the floor. But if you notice me, I'm standing next to you, go up like this.
Talking to the mic. Talking to the mic.
So this is, again, I didn't get to say that, like, you guys did something, you put it back in. So I caused mischief. That's why I wasn't in some of the following shows afterwards. But the main thing, Richard Goldstein, who wrote the New York magazine, asked to interview me, and I took him to the Heights, the Radish Corner, to George Washington High School and all that. And he was able to put that in and mention my name, about me and Steve and what we did. So it was great. We got 15 minutes of fame at 15 years old. So that was the pinnacle of our life, graffiti. But today this is Mount Everest for us,
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Steve. And another minute, we can bring on.
A little off topic. I just want to add a little historical gem, which is that Twyla Tharp redid this performance and this skit with the backdrops in 1980, I think 80 or 81. 6 of us did it. Dondi, rest in peace, Lady Pink, Crash, Days, Zephyr, and myself. It was at the Winter Garden Theater in 80-81. It was, we revisited the same skit with the backdrops rolling. And what I really wanted to mention was that my friend Sal 161, who was one of the founders of Noga, which would arguably be the second and next graffiti collective on the Upper West Side, he shot, was it 16 millimeter, Sal? He shot film of us backstage, all talking heads at the Winter Garden in 1980. Obviously, this off topic for what we're doing here with Gordon Matta Clark, but it's worth saying there is a second iteration of The Next Generation on film that Sal's currently working on.
And Sal's in the show down the street.
And there is a prototype piece of Sal's on the train and one of Gordon's photos, but I thought it was worth mentioning that this continued in cycles in generations, and there is more archival footage out there that's going to come to light soon.
Thank you all.
Hi, I just want to add one little thing, if you don't mind. Hi. And that is that when I teach this, I have my students look at the Rapture video, because if you look at the Rapture video, they have to know history. There's a ballerina in there that references both of these other incidents of artists, and then Jean-Michel is in that one, right? Yeah, and Fab Five Freddy. So there is a whole history of references to this incredible performance.
Thank you. All right. And if you all could go back to your seats. And in a minute, we're going to bring up our next speaker with me. Sorry, you got to listen to me again. Graffiti writers around the world know the name Taki183. He was a bored kid from 183rd Street in Washington Heights who used his Greek nickname Taki plus his street number and leaving his mark all over New York City in the 1960s through the early 70s. The simple signature inspired untold numbers of others, and it captured the attention of a reporter, and you're going to hear about that in a little bit too. Taki was the first New York City writer to become famous for graffiti in the press, and the first to go all city. Please welcome Taki. Trying to find the video.
Oh, I think you guys feel bad with it. Sorry.
You got it? Okay. It'll play in a second. Hello. You grew up in Washington Heights. What was it like in the late 60s, early 70s?
It was really nice because it's like not being in the city. There's a lot of trees and everything, but it's so urban. So it was just a lot of fun. I don't know what to tell you.
That's all right. You were just a kid being a kid.
Just being a kid.
You were part of the Greek Orthodox Youth Association?
Yeah, we hung around the Greek Orthodox Church, and we always had to do some kind of mischief we had to do. And my friend were doing graffiti. So I said, let me try that. And, they went that way and I went that way with it.
Who were your friends?
Greg 69, Phil T. Greek, a bunch of other guys.
So you're just hanging out with your friends. They were writing on stuff. So you figured, I'm going to write on stuff too.
Yeah, that was it.
So tell me about the name Taki. Where does that come from?
Well, it's the short of Demetrius, because when you're small, they call you Dimitraki. But no small little kids say Dimitraki, so they just say Taki. So that's where the name came out of it.
And what made you add the 183? Did you see other graffiti at the time that had numbers after it?
Julio 204 was writing 204, and we figured out it was his street after a while, because Greg was writing the year 69. Phil was writing Greek. I said, I'll put the street.
Was it a secret who you were?
Excuse me?
Was it a secret who you were? Were you mysterious?
Oh yeah, we were all secret. People would be talking about who are these guys, and we'd be next to them, and we had the inside joke. That was the cool thing.
Was it because you were worried you were doing something illegal, or it was just more fun to keep it a secret?
No, it was just being more fun to keep it a secret. When it became illegal, then it was a good thing not to be known.
Were you even thinking of it as an illegal activity?
When I was like killing George Washington High School and the school I was going to, I knew it wasn't a good thing, for the people.
It was a good thing for you.
Yeah.
Were you all using the word graffiti? What were you calling it?
I think we're just writing. We're even calling it tagging yet. We're just writing. We didn't meet a guy. Said, "Do you say, oh, you write? Yeah, I write." That's it.
So you were pretty famous in your high school, and your name was everywhere. Did people in your high school know who you were?
In high school, yeah, everybody knew, and at the end, the principal found out too. So,
was there a story there?
No, I'll leave that on the outside.
Some parents probably got called?
Yeah, parents and, rubbing, stuff like that.
You haven't told me that story before.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I don't want to bury it without it, you know.
Another time.
Yeah.
How did you meet other people that were doing graffiti outside of your circle?
You would just see it on the wall. There would be an intersection of places that people would write, like in the subway. And then you found out other people that do it. Just it wasn't like we looked out for each other, but people would be doing it, and that you're other people that are doing it, and that's how you would meet them.
So you were sort of indirectly creating a network.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But you were mostly writing your name alone, weren't you?
Yeah, I was doing it very by myself, only because I was doing deliveries. Then I only had a marker in my hand.
You would do most of your writing during the day also, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Mostly on the east side.
So you start in 1969, I think we figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And your friends probably start a little while before. And by 1970, you've destroyed your high school. Everyone knows who you are. You've gotten out of your neighborhood somewhat because you're traveling with your friends. You're going throughout the city doing different things. And then you get a job as a messenger. Tell me about this job.
You would be delivering packages, and they'd give you car fare if you're going uptown or side the avenues. But the way you made money was walk. So, and they let you keep the money, obviously. So that's where I'd be hitting everywhere. And
just broad daylight. So you got your name throughout the entire city.
Yeah.
Lots of places there was no graffiti, probably.
Not really. Yeah.
What kind of marker were you using, and how many were you going through?
Whatever you could get, whatever falls into my hands. Yeah.
How did you acquire them?
I had big pockets. What can I say?
There's a New York Times article about you that if anyone's looking up graffiti, especially at the library years ago, and Microfiche, if any of you remember, the New York Times article about you comes up, which is printed in subway art. It's printed in so many different things. This is the article. How did that article happen? Tell us about it.
The big New York Times. I don't even know how they found me. But obviously I said, "You want an interview?" And I said, "Fine." And I didn't think it was going to go anywhere.
Did they called your house?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, it's so long ago.
And you're 17 years old talking to the New York Times.
Yeah. It was only the Times,
Did they want to take your picture?
No.
Would you have let them?
No. No last name and anything. Still want to be on the down low.
As that article comes out, it's more towards the end of your writing career, though, correct?
Probably after that summer, I really slowed down.
You gave me a copy of the newspaper years ago that you found in your basement somewhere. It was folded in an envelope, yellowed with age, and it had your dad's handwriting at the top of it, which is on display down the street also. What did your parents think? You were in the Times. Obviously, they knew enough to clip it.
Well, my father didn't the New York Times, but probably somebody who knew him said, "Isn't that your kid?" And he said, "Yeah, that's my kid. Give me that thing." And he actually put the date on it, which is kind of cool.
You end up in Rolling Stone. You end up in Interview Magazine. You have a story, too. Didn't Andy Warhol want to meet you?
Yeah, they said, "Go down to meet Andy Warhol." I said, "Okay, so what's going to happen if I go there?" "Hey, he'll take a picture of you." I said, So, what's the big deal? So I said, "I'll pass on."
You really didn't have any association with the art world, did you?
No, I knew who he was, but I'd rather go up to Fort Tryon and do Frisbees, Yeah.
Is it true that you rode on a Secret Service car?
Yeah, I had to do it. Because they were protecting somebody. I said, no, I got to do this.
Who were they protecting?
Some woman, I don't know. They were like all over her. So they couldn't look at the car and at the woman at the same time. But the guy was sharp. He caught me.
What happened?
Grabbed my arm. He had to let me go. What are they going to throw me in the car too,
What about the Statue of Liberty commercial?
That was really cool. Because whoever did the commercial about the coughing, and it was on the stairs on the A train, where you can take the elevator or walk up. And I did it. It's a really walk, and I did it at the middle of the stairs. So they filmed it with the wife and the kids walking, and the guy's losing his breath. But whoever did the commercial, they did it. I guess they had to walk everybody up to the middle of the stairs and have it with my name on behind it.
They had to. You're talking. It's hard.
And because of that, people called me up that I hadn't heard from years. So that was a cool thing.
That's
what's cool about it.
I've still never been able to find that commercial. If anyone has a copy, let us know. How many tags do you estimate you did?
I don't know. I mean, on a good day, I was probably doing 25, 50.
So thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, piles. Graffiti.
Why do you stop?
Well, the job changed, and I got a car, and I got a girlfriend, and I said, all right, let's move on.
Do you ever get the itch?
Yeah. I did somebody's shirt before.
Do you have a marker in your pocket right now?
No. He's a...
So 55-ish years later after you start Taki, we're sitting here on stage of the Whitney. This culture has changed, and people continue to look at you as the guy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You're just here hanging out, which is one of my favorite things about you. You just want to be friends and tell the story.
Yeah, it's nobody has any new questions. That's the only thing. After 55 years, it's always the same question.
Yeah.
But it's good.
It's everybody, different crowds.
Yeah, different crowd.
What do you want us to ask?
I'm wondering about somebody who just starts writing right now. Why they do it? Like the 15-year-old kid that does it the first time. Are they doing it because somebody's doing it? They want to be up there just to be up there every time they walk by? Or they want their friends to know, look, I'm all over the place.
That's a good one. In the New York Times like Taki.
Yeah, well, they probably don't even know about that.
Yeah, he'd be surprised. But thank you for being here. Thank you all. We got one more for you.
Okay. Anything. Bring that now. Let me get up.
On your own way.
That pound to get it up, man.
All right, we got one more for you today. I should be using this mic, right? Sorry. Thank you, Taki. Next, we're going to have Futura come up. Futura is one of the biggest names and influences to come out of the graffiti world and put his mark on culture globally. Today, you'll find Futura collaborations in fashion, sculpture, music, and museums, where he just closed a show at the Bronx Museum. Futura is unlike any other artist today. He was part of the early wave of graffiti and even went on to UGA to visit, to see it. He went to the Razor Gallery show, but unfortunately, most of Futura's early work of his first part of his career is very undocumented. When going through the Motocark negatives and finding an amazing marker hit on the front of a train, I was floored. I wanted to send it to him, but I wasn't sure when I showed her, what the right environment to send it to him was. I didn't just necessarily want to send it as a text message. Wasn't really sure. But this was the earliest known Futura tag in a photo. And you can tell by looking at it, with the style and command of the marker, he had been doing it for a while. This wasn't something he had just started. I shared the image with Futura in many conversations about these early days, and his early proof of life of his career continued to happen. They were new conversations I hadn't had with him before. They were inspiring, and here we are to celebrate that. Some of his first act of graffiti. Welcome Futura to the stage, and let him talk about this. Thank you. Let him. Right here. What you want to sit there? Or you want over here? Whichever you want. No, it's just you.
Oh, wow.
It's you.
Oh, man, this is such an amazing day. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Roger. Let's be honest, okay? Thank you for your passion and your commitment to our story. You just continue telling it. And thank you, Gordon. Thank you, the family, the archival legacy. Thank you, Whitney. Thank you, White Columns. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all, obviously, being here with us today. Man, what a moving experience. I have like chicken skin because, it's real. First, Mike, Steve, you guys, UGA, Hugo, City College, you said 72. This young man here graduated high school, 1972. I was 16. My birthday's in November. I always look younger. I'm going to be 70. Feel like I'm fucking 50. So imagine me as a 15-year-old. I look like 11, which was great. I couldn't get girls, but it was great. Anyway, I tried to go to college that semester, that fall. My mom was pushing my academics. I wasn't, but I was under the whip. I'm an only child, and my mother was the authority in my life. So I started being a fan. When I started looking at graffiti, and it's funny you mentioned G-Dub High School in the Writers' Corner, 188, Snakes, Crew, the founding area of all these gentlemen, a couple of beautiful women as well. But I lived on the one line. I lived on 103rd and Broadway. So all their tags just rolled up and down the Ave, and I was so inspired by them. Once I found out, I forgot to mention, I'm trying to go to college. I go up to City College. I'm from 103rd and Broadway. Who do I see up there? A guy named Hugo Martinez. He's organizing these kids. So being a college student, smart enough to be a little sleuth, and I used to just trail these guys. I mean, first of all, Taki 183, I give you a pretty good idea. He lives on 183rd Street. So to find these guys back in the day was very easy, let's be honest. So I was all over that because, once again, I'm an only child. I have a fucking incredible imagination, so I was on it. It's like Sherlock Holmes with the fucking magnifying glass. But easy crime to crack, okay? I was on to them, but Hugo fucking hated me. You know that, right? He hated me. Because he knew this guy. He's like, hey, get out of here. He's like, you're a fucking fly on the wall. And I was, okay? I was a toy. But I knew who was what, and when everything happened, I didn't see you guys on stage. But I was at the Razor Gallery, read Richard shit, New York Magazine, was a forerunner to the Faith of Graffiti, which is the first Bible. And now let's get to the pictorial essay of our culture. That was it. Faith of Graffiti came out. No one saw this. We're reminiscing and, going into a historical database here. It's great that it exists, and I'm so thank you, because it is proof of life. Now, I didn't need this. I was there. People don't know my story. I don't give a fuck. It's tomorrow, okay? I'm not going to dwell on, the antiquities of life. But this does fucking prove I was there. And, is this photo greater than Martha's photo of the brake train in 1980? And that's a debate, okay? Because it's two separate eras. And what was so beautiful about you guys, you young... Mike, that's you with the long hair, right? What a hottie. Just to say, did you see how they were testing their paint? Like on cans and boxes, like right there. Like, you guys, first of all, you should have just been spraying the wall of that little green room. Secondly, wow, that's so crazy how you guys tested paint. It's like, I didn't test paint like that. But the stuff you learn and, what we share. Anyway, cut to the present of that moment. And yeah, 72, 73 is the Mata archive. I'll take 73. It really doesn't matter. That's the year that changed my life with these guys going public. Oh, by the way, Taki 183, my hero. I met Dimitri when Roger did that show out in Cali that he mentioned, Art in the Streets. It was a moment for me. You know that, right? You know how much I love you. But what he talked about, this commercial, okay, that was a public service ad, a PSA, about anti-smoking. And you're telling me the stairway was in the A-train station somewhere in the city? Okay, but now this is film editing, because it's a Statue of Liberty. And the branding on this, I smoke Camel Straights, okay, I know my cigarettes. The branding on the cigarettes is a brand, it's called O. So it's like nothing, right? Because it's a public service announcement. They're not selling anything. They're not selling Marlboro or Cool. So it's all a beautiful film, actually. And the guy's having a smoke outside before he goes up the torch. And they edited it to where it looks like your tag is on the torch stairway, which has probably been shut down for 40 plus years. But at one point when we were kids, you could walk up into the Torch Observatory. You remember that as a child? Yeah, right? We all did that shit. That was crazy. But just to say, there was a Taki tag in the stairway of the torch. Now, of course, there wasn't because they shot that elsewhere. But I'm like fucking 15, 16. I'm believing what I don't understand yet editing and the power of all that shit. So, but that moved me because not only was this guy published in the fucking New York Times, and oh, by the way, Google New York Times, this is for your academics, graffiti 1973. You can use the word Ali, like Muhammad Ali. You'll come up with a fantastic story about an incident in 1973, maybe shortly after that tag, where my friend was badly burned in a subway tunnel called the One Tunnel. Subsequent to that accident, I wound up joining the Navy for 4 years. And, I don't want to bore you guys here, but I just want to give you my kind of organic childhood origins and humble beginnings around that moment. Yeah, after the Navy, which I'm wearing this in honor of my military service. Thank you to anyone here for your service. I appreciate you. Thank you, Michael. I know you served, my guy. So just to say, after the military, I came back and we reconnected with this group called the Soul Artists. By then, yes, UGA had kind of not disintegrated, but, gone under, as Eric mentioned, and Sal is in the room. Sal kicked in Noga. Makes me think of James Prigoff and that Stan 153 and the people who came in the mid-'70s while I was serving. The second iteration, I'd like to think that we were part of the latter 70s into the 80s, and we were the third iteration, that next chapter of young individuals, of which Hayes was very much a part, Dondi, Zephyr, numerous artists, Lady Pink, Days Crash, the whole crew came in the 80s to kind of bring the movement above ground. It's what I say, it's when we all surfaced. And thankfully, we were supported by, someone had mentioned Rapture, and Fat Five Freddy, Glenn O'Brien, Debbie Harry. Jean is in that video as a DJ. Lee Quinones is painting. Fred's kind of bopping around. It's rendition and edition after another. Strangely enough, I see these boys, and was there a female in that video? No. Was Charmin, you were up in there? Okay, I didn't see her on film. Hey, Charmin. I got you. Yeah. Salt and pepper, yo. I got you. My mother was black. My father was white. I could say that. Just to say that, yeah, I mean, iterations of that are crazy because at one point, unbeknownst to me, in 1981, I'm on tour with this group called The Clash from the UK, and I'm painting behind stage, solo dolo, and that was like unbelievable. So of course, these ideas of performance art / music and art high school couldn't get in, art and design couldn't get in. Man, I got rejected from everything as a creative kid growing up. So fortunately, graffiti accepted me into their university. We wrote. We were not graffiti artists. Anyone who said we were graffiti artists back in that day was pretentious, okay? Because we wrote. And as you said, the classic, Babino, what you write or whatever, that's what it was. That's the language of my school. Like, what do you write? What's your name? I don't care about your creativity, your artwork. That will reveal itself through the style in which you write your name or do what you do. Kinda. Thank you. No, but once again, I don't want to bore you guys. I just want to say thank you so much. Oh, finally, I spoke with Gordon's family and everyone, and how what he did was so important because what we knew to be true had been seen. And Roger's unearthing the archaeological dig of Mata's collection here, archival legacy, it doesn't just breathe life into our culture, but it readjusts what had been known to be true and factual, and it inserts itself into that database and becomes, it just enriches the whole thing. And of course, your boy gets a proof of life shout out, which I'm very grateful for. Finally, if anyone is here to interact with us and be part, oh shit, sign my book. We're going to the gallery. This is the last day of the exhibition. Some of you probably have seen it, but if you haven't, today's not a bad day to head over there. I'm going to wrap this up. Maybe if anyone, Raj, want to come in here and save me? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Fucking, let's go Knicks, yo. What up?
Thank you, Lenny. That was fantastic. All right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, White Columns. Thank you, Whitney.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
The tag that Taggy did on 183 on Statue of Liberty is true because I saw it when I was up the stand. It was right in the corner. The night.
Okay, so now that reveals that he signed an NDA 50 years ago, and he's just acting as if, oh no, they shot that in. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks for the validation, because for nothing, that looked like a fucking spiral staircase. Come on, man. They don't have that in the A-line. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm just taking the gospel from his mouth, but you're like, nah, yo, I was over there. I was only 11, but I seen it. Thank you, Michael. Well, you and your boy Steve. Because no, here's what happened though. I went up to the UGA headquarters. I was hanging around. Hugo told me to to get scrammed. And these guys were like, yo, you want to come hang with us? Of course I did. Oh, by the way, rest in peace to Stay High 149. He's featured in that video. I went motion tagging with Wayne, okay, back in the day. Coco, I love you for life. These people, like the Hugos of the world, well, no. Hugo, he was not feeling me, but you guys were. I wasn't part of your thing. I never outstepped my, area, but in your presence and the presence of those guys as a kid, and I might have been a year or two older than them, I was little Lenny, but I was very honored. Thank you. I didn't say it. Thank you.
So much. Oh, thank you all. Thank you to everybody who participated today. Thank you to our amazing, amazing audience, artists. Okay, we are heading over to White Columns. It's literally one street south from here. It's 91 Horatio Street. So if you want to keep this conversation going, join us at White Columns. Thank you again. Thank you, Whitney.